I met Chad Hovasse in the fall of 2018 in one of my classes where he casually mentioned he was a receiver on the football team. And like any dedicated has-been, I decided I better peep this guy's credentials and spend an inordinate amount of time wondering if he could crack block me. I checked his stats on the Grizzly Athletic page and was shocked to learn that Chad was an All-American, an RMAC Player of the Year, and a Harlan Hill candidate. Chad would finish his career with several Adams State receiving records as he accumulated 288 receptions for just shy of 4,000 yards and 44 tugs. I sat down with Chad to hear his great story and learn how he went from walk-on to one of the best to do it on Rex Field. While Chad is physically gifted, his accomplishments should be attributed to his willingness to do whatever it takes and the motivation to earn respect and a place at the table. And now, an Adams State football podcast interview with a 6'1", 220-pound wide receiver hailing from Colorado Springs, Colorado, a captain, a record setter, an All-American, a Harlan Hill candidate, and one of the best to do it wearing the green, black, and white for Adams State. Number 81, Chad Hovasse.
Look at this halfback pass. Austin Hillman looking for Chad Hovasse, who reaches up, one-handed football in the end zone, and it is caught.
Before we get started, let's take a pause for the claws. It's been 1 year since we published the first episode of the Adams State Football Podcast. Over the past year, we've listened to the great stories of Adams State players, coaches, and friends of the program. And we're knocking on the door of 1,000 listens. Having proven the concept that a podcast can help to engage Adams State football alumni, we're gearing up to increase the consistency and quality of the project. For those of you that have tuned in, I can't thank you enough, but the work's not done, and we need your help. We need as many ears and eyes to secure resources to advance the mission of celebrating this program. You can help by listening, subscribing, sharing, reviewing, and rating this content. So text, direct message, and share these episodes with those teammates, roomies, lifting partners, and family members. You can keep up to date with the project and the program with our Adams State Football Facebook group. Thank you all for your support. Go Adams State. All right. Chad Hovasse, welcome back to Adams State.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to see you here in the School of Business. I had the good fortune of spending some time in the class with you here. And we were talking earlier, I was telling you, you were one of the first people that got me to pay attention to what was going on with the football program. I had gone out into the wilderness, started working on my career, trying to find myself. And when I had you in class, do you still size people up?
Not really.
Well, I'm a douchebag, so I still have that where, there's a football player in here. What position does he play, right? And it was 2018, so it was your senior year I had you in class. And then I looked you up. I was like, whoa, because I didn't know about the Harlan Hill and the RMAC player. I didn't know what caliber player you were. And so I looked you up. We had a conversation maybe that next day or something like that. I said, hey, you're a pretty good football player. And humbly, you said, yeah, I'm doing okay, or something like that. But I'm glad to have you back here in the School of Business. I'm excited to talk to you about your career here at Adams State, what you've been up to, shouting out the friends, and just talking about some of the bad old days. What's it like for you to be back here?
Well, first thing I'll say is you're welcome for getting you back into it, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No. But it's definitely nostalgia coming back here.
Mm-hmm.
I've been back here a couple times, and it's definitely been too long.
Mm-hmm.
It's only being essentially a couple hours down the road. So
Mm-hmm.
need to start getting back here a little bit more. But it's nice being back.
Mm-hmm. So let's start out. Tell me the years that you played, so the years you came in, the year you graduated, the number that you wore in your position.
Came in 2014, graduated in the fall of, the winter time, I guess, of 2018. And then I was a wide receiver, and I rocked 81.
How'd you get 81?
It was given to me.
Given to you?
It was given to me.
Was there anything else with it? Like, did you just kind of get stuck with it? Did you have your eye on a number and you ended up with 81?
To be completely honest with you and as transparent as I can be, I was not a fan of any 80s numbers.
No?
Whatsoever. I was like,
were you looking for a teens?
I was looking for a teens or single digit, but it was interesting because there was 4 or 5 senior receivers the year that I redshirted, and when the new coaching staff rolled in between my true freshman year and my redshirt year, it's kind of like I'm too young to probably be asking for a number. And so it's like, well, you're just going to swallow this pill and you're just going to kind of deal with it and, get into the locker room and see 81 on my locker. And I'm like, God damn, this sucks.
Did you have a player that you looked up to where you're like, oh man, I'd really like that number? I like retrospectively started to love my number. I picked 94 because 9 plus 4, it's a D lineman number. In high school, I was 76. 7 plus 6 is 13. 9 plus 4 is 13. So that was my dumb logic that was going on when I came to picking my number.
Right.
No one else wanted it, so I ended up getting it. And it just grew on me. And then I was like, oh, yeah, DeMarcus Ware. And then there was a guy from the 49ers who was this gnarly-ass D tackle. And then I just kind of grew on me. Did it grow on you, 81?
So it definitely grew on me. Yes, to answer your question, player-wise and number-wise, I more so followed players, not necessarily falling in love with their numbers, but kind of as my sophomore year rolled on and going into my junior year, I mean, I hated the Patriots, but I loved Edelman.
Oh, yeah.
Loved Edelman. And so I thought rocking 11 would be awesome. And I can't remember at the time, but it's just like that's not really going to happen. And at that point, I was kind of halfway through my eligibility, and it's like you've rocked 81 the last 2 years. You're starting to kind of pick up some steam with your performance, and it's like it's probably just too late to change at this point. So
it was 81.
It was 81.
Well, based off your career, it's quite possible that number might get put up on a plaque out there because you had a rad career, close to 4,000 yards,
just shy
of 4,000 total receiving yards, 100 plus touchdowns. No. All right, I got the table. I'll consult the table. I'll throw it into the show notes of this, as well as there's a couple of highlights and stuff. But I want to get into your career. But first, let's talk about where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Which is where you're at now.
Which is where I'm at now and probably won't ever leave.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful area. You get all the outdoor activity. You can do all of the outdoor activities.
Anything you want to do. The cost of living is getting a little outrageous.
It's getting a little popular.
The way it goes.
Yeah, a lot of folks are selling their $1 million 3-bedroom 1-bath house in California and migrating out.
Yep.
So that's definitely a challenge. People finding out the secrets of the great state of Colorado here. Right. Tell me, what are your first organized sports that you play?
Ooh, so I grew up. Football was always there. I was really big into baseball. I actually played a lot of hockey growing up.
Okay.
Yep, that was really fun. Parents never wanted to pay for ice, so it was always inline. It was kind of the stepchild to ice, but just the sport in general was so fun.
When do you first put the pads on or start playing flag football?
So I never played flag. It was always tackle. And my first organized football team that I played on, I was a 3rd grader playing on a 5th grade team.
Oh, terrific. How'd that go?
It was rough. It was rough. I was by far the smallest kid out there. And I honestly think that's kind of where the love of football started, was around that time, because I was the smallest. I was the slowest. I got beat up, but I think the biggest thing for me, and I'll always remember this, when I first got to practice, we would do this big long lap as a warm-up, just running, and not a run, but not a jog, from what I can remember. And I was always dead last in line, always dead last in line. And by the end of the year, it was so funny because I worked my way up, trying to get to the front of the line, and then I can remember the last week or two of kind of that season. I got to the front of the line, and as you're kind of finishing running through the in line per se, I got cut off by the guy who was in front of the line every single day. He cut me off, and kind of stuck the foot out a little bit, and
So like
Give
a
you a
weird
little bit of that
weird
young
little
man
mix
treatment.
of motivation / hazing.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, now it's like,
Yep.
like you kind of got your fire lit, your fired kindle, your juices going a little
Right.
bit, because it sounds like that's when you kind of start, because you're a worker, right?
Yep.
Like you end up having this terrific career, but a lot of that probably is attributed to your work ethic. And I bet you that was a formative experience when it came to bringing out some of that dog inside of you.
I think that was definitely molded into my brain and just kind of, wear that as a brand, throughout my career.
So when does football kind of start changing, right? Because you're going from third grade on a fifth grade team. That's rough. You're getting picked on a little bit. You're smaller than everyone. You mentioned earlier you're a little bit of a late bloomer.
Yep.
Tell me more about how football develops for you. How about middle school? You play football in middle school?
Yeah, I did. So kind of just before getting into middle school, just going through those couple of years, kind of growing up, figuring out that you like being on a team and, messing around and love playing football, watching it on Saturdays and Sundays. So get into middle school, play 7th and 8th grade through middle school. That was fun. And then roll into high school, played my freshman year of high school, ended up moving schools. And I didn't play football at all my sophomore or junior year. And kind of like what you just said, I was like what we mentioned earlier, I was a very late bloomer. And so when I'm transferring high schools, you don't really know anybody. It's not the boys you grew up with. So it's like, I just kind of step away from this for a little bit. And then pretty much at the end of my junior year is when I finally hit my growth spurt.
Okay.
And it's like, well, I think I want to get back into this.
So let's describe that from like a little bit of a process as far as like the work that you put in, but also just some of your own, your own natural development. Like I was a skinny little runt, all through middle school, and was basically that same way until I was about a junior when I started to fill out a little bit, hit the weight room. So you little teeny kid, your freshman year, you playing receiver then? What's it like?
No, I was playing center my freshman year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Was short, super chubby. One of those, had to deal with that through middle school and high school. And then, I would say around my sophomore year of high school, I was probably 5'7" probably 100 and I don't know, 55, 60 pounds of just...
Nobody's walking around going, that's a future D2 Heisman candidate
yeah,
right
exactly.
there.
Nobody's saying that. They're saying, that is a short, chunky, goofball-looking kid. And then finally senior year rolls around. It's like, into junior year, I finally start growing and I get to about 6 foot and I'm about 175, 180 pounds, starting to finally shed some of that baby fat and lean out, getting in the weight room and starting to figure out what that was like.
Tell me about so you fall in love with the sport, you fall in love with being a part of a team. Were there some teammates that were part of that? Were there some coaches that were a part of that were like your early, this is a good role model? Like what was that like?
Yeah, there's a couple buddies that I had growing up within Park and Rec that were fun, and just you split and kind of go your own ways, and then finally getting into that middle school, early high school time frame. The school that I was originally at had started to become a big powerhouse in the state of Colorado for 4A, being at Pine Creek High School, and a couple of just those upperclassmen guys, and one of them ended up coming here, Connor Stevens.
Okay.
Yep. So he was a senior, and I was
number 44.
Connor?
I think so.
I think he was 4.
Was he 4?
I think he was 4 towards the end of his career. I apologize
if I misnumbered you, Connor. Right, but I remember Connor coming in. Just kind of heard the name. I know he coached here and did a little strength and conditioning.
I think so. I think a little bit of that background towards the end of his career.
Okay, entirely possible. I'm talking out of my ass, but these are, we get to correct me as
Long
a
time
storyteller
ago.
in this
Hitting
thing,
the head a
right?
lot.
So exactly
you go.
right. So you have so what is your guys' like age difference? He's a senior when you're a freshman.
He's a senior when I'm a freshman, and his little brother was actually the same age as me. And Connor was definitely one of the standouts in high school, and his little brother Chase was on his way up doing the same thing. And me being a late bloomer, it's like just kind of looking up to these guys and trying to.
Well, those seniors when you're a freshman, they're impactful. Like I had guys, Anthony Donlin, Luke Loya, these guys that you looked up to, and they would drag us out to the Native New Yorker to go eat wings before, team dinner on Thursday night for Friday. And then, just to be included, going from a skinny punk to being included into, some of these bad mofos that are on the campus. That's a really good feeling.
Right.
So you're kind of taken under the wing a little bit.
A little bit. And, that's the thing, too, just being as small as I was at the time, it's kind of hard not to look up to those guys. And like, man, and there was a handful of them when I was a freshman at Pine Creek who, they just were studs. And you try to want to implement that, and you try to want to be like that. And at the same time, you're like, God, when am I going to start growing? It's not going to happen if I'm not, going through that next stage in life. Thank you very much. But yeah. And then, when I moved and, started kind of figuring out who I was and growing into a young man, it's starting to kind of carve that own path.
I don't know that I'd do it again. Like, high school is like a rough. I was very blessed to have coaches around me. I was blessed to have terrific friends and to have a place where I could go and belong, contribute to, feel successful, have something to help me. So what role in high school did sport or football play for you as far as getting through everything, giving you some friends? Like, what was the role of football then? Yeah,
so when I moved high schools, I was on the golf team my sophomore and junior year, just because when I moved schools, the only person that I knew was one of the school counselors, and he happened to be the golf coach at the time. And, grew up on a golf course, enjoyed whacking the ball around every once in a while. It's like, this is something that seems fun and what I want to do. And
better for your brain health.
Exactly. Better for your whole physical.
Probably long-term. Maybe it occupies a lot of your mind space and drives you a little crazy, but, saves you some short-term memory loss.
Yeah, big time. But after my junior year, my love for football never diminished and it never left. And it's like, God, I need to get back into this. Like, it's not I want to, it's I need to do this.
And was there enough physical change in you then where this is, or did you go back to center, or did you go into receiver?
No, it's finally like, all right, you're out of that pudgy body now, so we can mess around and
you
play.
Matured and developed.
Exactly. What I ended up doing is I was a will linebacker.
Okay.
And I played receiver too. So got to play a little bit of both sides of the ball, was on every single special teams unit other than PAT, and just got the opportunity to run around and make plays. And that's kind of what I told my head coach at the time was that's another funny story too. So golf season in Colorado doesn't run as long as football. So after my junior year, when golf finished up, I went to the head coach of the football team because he was a teacher at the high school. And I said, hey, I want to get back into this. I know you guys are 5-6 weeks into the season right now. Can I come and scout for you guys? Like, I just need to get back into it. What can I do? And he's like, you golfed, right? It's like, yeah. Yeah, we don't want you around. All right. Sounds good. Well,
terrific.
I'll see you in the summertime. So show up in the summertime, still not getting a whole lot of respect or anything along those lines. And we have our team camp before we come team camp at the high school.
Yeah, it sounds like someone's sticking their foot out. You're putting forth some effort trying to keep you from being in front of that sprint line.
You get all the super crappy handout, the old pads,
go in the corner,
the old helmet. Yeah, I definitely got the ugly stepchild treatment for sure.
They put a little chip on your shoulder and like motivate you?
Big time.
Okay.
Big time. And so we have a week-long team camp before we ended up coming up here to Adams for a team camp to meet up with other teams. And, first couple of days of team camp, I'm kind of getting my feet wet, filling it out a little bit. And by the end of the camp, it's like, we don't have a bed for you to come up to camp. It's like, all right, I'll change that. And last couple of days of camp, it's, well, we got a bed for you now. It's like, yeah, that's what I thought.
You earned your keep, you earned your respect.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, and again, looking at, your outcome of your overall college career, these are not necessarily things that you would expect when you rewind the tape to where you're getting treated like a redheaded stepchild and then earning your keep, and then they're making a place at the table for you.
Right. We got a place at the table for you. Exactly. So came up here. It was like a 3 or 4 day long camp. There was probably I don't know, 13, 14 other teams up here. And it was just fun being on a college university with a bunch of your high school buddies and, messing around in the dorms and hanging out.
Stadium had been built by then?
Yep. So the Rex was done, the apartments
This would
and
have been,
everything.
what, 2013,
This
2012?
would have been 12.
12?
Yep,
Okay.
12.
So, yeah, things were looking shiny around.
Things are looking nice. I mean, they got a nice stadium. The turf looks good. It's fun playing on a big college field. And I mean, we had a blast. We were a solid team, and we ate it up and enjoyed our time here.
That's awesome. So that experience must have left some type of an impression on you when it came to the recruiting process and probably ultimately your decision to come to Adams State.
Yep.
But let's go through that, right? So you finish up your senior year. You do pretty good with the boys. I believe you guys made maybe a playoff game or two.
Yeah, we lost in the semifinals.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we lost in the semifinals our senior year. So we went on. We finished the season 7-3. We lost the league championship game the week before. Had to travel to Montrose. We were a 12 or 13 seed.
Okay.
Out of 16. So we traveled down to Montrose, upset them, come home, play the 2 seed, beat them. And then Denver South High School was actually a 5A school, and that 2012 was the first year they dropped to 4A. We played them week 1 at Denver South, and we had them beat. Give up 2 just straight vertical routes in the fourth quarter to lose by it was probably 6 points. And then it's like we get South High at home in the semis, and it's like redemption. Here we go. And they had this running back that was 5'6", 285 pounds.
Oh boy,
Just an absolute bowling ball, and we got ran over. This is Philip Lindsay's team. And,
Okay.
So we got their second, third string running back, and we could not contain him at all. He had some speed to him, had some size, was just running everybody over. We ended up losing by probably 15 or 16, but just that run in general was an amazing experience.
What were some other players that you played against that might have had some hype around them, or there were some talks like this player's going here? The conference that I played in was the East Sky region in 4A in Arizona. We were a smaller school, very much a doormat type of a program, playing against some Scottsdale. I swear to God, they were junior colleges: Scottsdale Saguaro, Scottsdale Chaparral. I think he has some teammates that might have came from DeCicero, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, they came
The
from
brothers.
Scottsdale Saguaro.
Yep.
Yeah, and so they would, there was always, it was like a basketball game, and they're saying Kyle Caldwell, 6'4", 240, 4'6", defensive ends going to this, and Ika Modofia is going to Stanford. So there was a bunch of players that were getting Pac-10, Pac-12, Northwestern looks and stuff like that. Do you remember some of the other players or there was buzz around them in high school?
It's really funny. During my time in high school, it just happened to always be running backs. It was always running backs. So we played Philip Lindsay that first week, and I can remember, finishing up team camp and kind of starting to prep for that first week. Thank you. And it's like this guy's good. I mean, he's going to run for probably 200 yards, maybe more, but we just got to contain him.
Okay.
And we were a very physical team, and whenever he got his yards, but whenever he got hit hard, very hard.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And then Falcon High School, which is Eastern Colorado Springs, they had a cat by the name of Kalen Balaj, and he went to Arizona State, had a pretty decent career there. Kind of a suitcase in the NFL, bounced around a lot.
Okay.
And then I never got the opportunity to, but the year after I transferred from Pine Creek, the very next year, they went to the state championship and played Christian McCaffrey.
Valor Christian.
Yep, at Valor.
Okay. Got a powerful the head coach for Valor Christian now. He's an Adams State alumni.
Oh, really? Awesome. Well, that's love to hear that.
Yeah,
love to hear that. They got ran over in that game. Stevens, my buddy, McCaffrey goes out for a little bubble from the running back position, and my friend at the time, Chase, smacked.
Just smokes him.
And you want to talk about waking up, a sleeping giant? Yeah, I think he ran for probably 5 or 6 touchdowns after that. Final score was 66-10 maybe. Oh, it was
Where'd your
slaughter.
team get its physicality from? Was that like a culture thing with your
time.
program, your head coach?
Yep.
Who were some of your influential coaches and mentors at that time?
So Rob Broughton was our head coach at the time, and he just retired a couple years ago. He'd been the head coach at Mesa Ridge for, a decade plus, but defensive-minded guy, very, we're going to set the tone.
Okay.
And being in southern Colorado Springs, so the high school that I came from, northern in town, definitely more developed and not as diverse per se. And then I moved to the south end of town, and it's culture's very different, very diverse, people from all different walks of life, just 25 minutes down the road. And you have some kids that have some very tough upbringing. Hard times make hard people, and that's kind of how it was even in high school. And so having a defensive minded coach was setting the tone, and we just had that physicality and just wanting to make everybody better, and kind of that mentality of like this is my boy, this is my friend, but at the end of the day, like you're gonna get hit, I'm gonna smack you in the mouth, kind of thing, and it worked for us.
Well, it seemed like that stuck with you, right? Because when you and we had a little conversation in the classroom after a class one day, and I said, "So what is going on? Like, what is it that makes you different?" And you had mentioned your physicality, and we'll go into that. What is your academic life like in high school? Are you handling your grades? What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's like 3.5, 3.6.
Okay.
There was 230 kids in our class, and I'm right around 25th to 35th in that area. So definitely be proud of your performance and stuff, but not valedictorian or anything.
Well, what was your
those
blueprint
lines.
for that? I mean, were you just a smart cat, or did you just handle your business? Did you take kind of the same work ethic from the field to the classroom?
I enjoyed my science classes. I wasn't a big math whiz.
Okay.
Chemistry wasn't my favorite, but just kind of those bio classes and those anatomy classes were super fun. I didn't mind the business side of things and whatnot, but it was more handle your business more than anything. It's like, you think in your mind you want to go do something and potentially go to college. It's like you have to take care of your business in the classroom first and foremost before anything.
Any teachers that come to mind that were particularly inspirational, that made an impact on you? I was a 2.0 kid for a long time, and then I got a couple teachers that said, "Hey, you're getting that as a choice, right? If you did A, B, C, and D, and you applied yourself and you did these things," and I was like, "Oh, okay, really?" And just to have an adult to have some confidence. So you have some teachers that are like kind of support for you.
So my high school head coach, he was a history teacher, so he taught all the AP classes and stuff like that. And I took his AP class, and I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. It was fun, but other teachers that kind of stand out. So he was definitely one of them. And then I was in our student council. Our student council teacher was awesome. Josh Morris. He's still at Mesa Ridge. But I mean, I really genuinely felt like I developed very positive and good relationships with most of my teachers. Miss Hovasse was our athletic trainer, and she taught a couple biology classes my senior year when I was there. And, we developed a really good close relationship. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch that stand out. I don't really feel like I ever had a time where, I butted heads with any teachers or like that. It was kind of, you're in student cabinet, you're in the council, you got to represent this school, and you've got to be a positive role model. And I just think that creating those positive relationships just takes it a long way.
So were they just reading your papers and what were some of the behavioral elements as far as how you conducted yourself in class? I mean, I'm kind of speaking to, maybe if there's a sophomore in high school, listen to this, right? What were some of the things that you did besides your performance to develop those relationships?
Well, I mean, I tried to do my best in class, and I tried to be a positive role model with everybody in the school. I mean, you have your clique and your group that you run with. And for me, that was guys on the football team, and that was guys on the baseball team, also playing baseball when I was in high school. But just getting involved in every single club and activity that I could, Nationals Honor Society. We had a thing called S2S, which is student to student. So what that is being right across Fountain Fort Carson, the military base. There's a lot of kids that move that are in and out. So when you get those kids who come into a new area, you kind of get to show them around for a week and essentially be their buddy. I had a really good S2S student when I had moved to that high school, and I thought this is a way that you can give back, getting into council, getting into mediation type activities with the school counselors and stuff, having the golf coach as one of the school counselors, just helping out, whether it's freshmen or sophomores and people who are starting to find their identity a little bit and having, tough conversations at home or not getting along with their friends. How can I be a mediator in a sense, so it's not a teacher, but it's another student who can listen to both sides and just trying to kind of come up with a solution.
Well, it sounds like you were highly engaged. You're
Big time.
participating in things, and we don't have to unpack the whole shebang, but it sounds like school and the way you conducted yourself, you were kind of throwing yourself into this thing. So school and sport ends up being kind of an outlet for you.
Absolutely.
You have, so for me, school is my outlet. Like, early on, I figured out I want to spend as little time at home as possible. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do. I'll run track, I'll wrestle, I'll do whatever it is. So I can take the latest bus home because my home life wasn't particularly satisfying, right? And because when we started unpacking this from a golf course and good grades, we might make some assumptions, but it sounds like, based off some conversation we had earlier, you're using school and sport as a positive and pro-social outlet for yourself because you had some adversity going on in some other areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the adversity that I was dealing with at home, coming from a split kind of broken family dynamic. So just staying busy and doing everything that I could as an outlet was just a very positive outlook on my life. And it kept me busy and it kept me out of trouble. And yeah, I ran with it.
Yeah, gives you goals,
right?
Things to aim for.
Yep.
Reinforcement of, when you get that teacher that says good job on that paper or good job on that assignment, and then just being, with 100 other people in a program,
right?
Adults that care about you, that care about your eligibility, that tell you a good job. That's a real big deal, I think, for students that are experiencing home lives that have a little bit more going on than your standard quintessential picket white fence and all that other stuff.
Exactly.
Tell me about how you get to Adams State. So you have a pretty good senior year. You're part of a good squad, and it's exciting to hear you're mixing it up with the black shirts too. What's the recruiting process like? I mean, you got some grades going on there. Do you have some players on your team that are being recruited and they're coming and watching a little bit of your tape? What's the recruiting process like?
The recruiting process was essentially non-existent.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I get the 1 year of film, and I've got stuff going on at home that I just don't know how that's gonna affect my future. And my head coach at the time, there was a Colorado School of Mines recruiter who was in town, and hey, what'd you get on your ACT? It's like, like a 21. Nothing great, but not terrible. He definitely could have done better, but yeah. So that I can remember that vividly, actually walking down the hall, and my head coach is walking with a mine scout, and I just happen to walk by and just nod my head walking by, and wait, hey, Hovasse, what'd you get on your ACT? I got a 21. Oh, never mind.
Lie next time.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got a 32.
Lie next time and retake it.
So, I mean that to be quite frank, that was the help that I got from my head coach, and it's just because I think he was aware of my situation and kind of the question marks that were around that, and he had a lot of other players to help out and worry about, and I think he focused his time on that, which rightfully he should, because I didn't know what it was going to look like. And so what ended up happening for me was I was actually recruited more so for baseball than I was football. I had a really good couple of years. My junior
when
and senior
Colorado
year playing
plays enough baseball, they have a good enough weather where they're playing some baseball. Up there
Right.
and taking it serious.
So just some smaller schools out in California, a few out in Ohio, and again, just kind of with my situation at home, I didn't know what that was going to look like.
What position do you play?
I was a center fielder.
Okay.
Center fielder. So I just tracked down everything that I could in the outfield, layout for everything, and had a decent enough arm to get it in. And
Dirty uniform.
exactly.
Hustle.
Yep. But so graduation rolls around, and I have no plans. I'm seeing all my buddies kind of doing their thing just because I'm not sure what I want to do, if I want to go to school, if I want to play, just trying to figure out what my home life is looking like. So I worked a job actually at Taco Bell when I was a sophomore, and I exactly love it.
Fiesta.
Yep. So I did that on weekends my sophomore, junior, senior year, and then I maintained that job after graduating, and I knew that I wanted to go to school, and I knew that I wanted to play football deep down inside, but it's like I don't have any help. I don't know how I'm supposed to do this.
You're on an island.
I'm on an island. I don't have a whole lot of help from home at the time, and so what I did was I got a membership at Anytime Fitness, which was 5 minutes down the road from where I was living at the time. I kept my job at Taco Bell. I enrolled at a few classes at Pikes Peak. It's state college now. It used to be community college, just to keep some form of normalcy with going to school, taking classes, working.
Maintaining the structure that you get out of sport and get out of school.
Exactly. So was going to school in the morning, was working 6 days a week until about 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Grinding. You're adulting.
Big time.
1 star. Do not recommend.
Yeah. 1 star.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't be a 1 star.
You're 18. Yeah. So you're 18 and 19, and you're doing grown person things.
Well, I was 17 when I graduated high school.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So I turn 18 that summer after I graduate, and after work, going to Anytime Fitness and staying there until midnight, trying not to go home.
Did you develop that? So I'm guessing that you had a affinity for the steel and a love for the weight room. Did you develop that love for the gym and training in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my junior, senior year is kind of starting to grow again, starting like, okay, weights is a good thing. You can move some weight around. And then after graduating, when I started working out at Anytime, there was a gentleman there who was working on his bodybuilding profile.
Okay.
And I flat out went up to him. I said, "Hi, my name is Chad Hovasse. I'm in here from this time to this time. I see that you happen to be in here a lot of that time too. I don't have anything to offer you. I would love to learn from you and pick up as much as I can. I'm trying to work and stay healthy and start to stay fit and kind of continue to grow so that I can go play college football. Do you have any information that you can give me? Is there anything you can help me out with?" And for legitimately about 2.5 months, he just took me under his wing and we worked out together. And he kind of showed me the ropes a little bit in the weight room and what that looked like and how to work hard, how to develop and what you should be working on this day and what you should
eat.
Exactly. Big time.
Where do you get this from as far as humbling your pie and asking to go be on the scout team and trying to make it to the front of the line, and now you're approaching this stranger who's probably jacked to the gills, right?
Huge.
And where does this come from?
I think it ties back to those park and rec days, being undersized, being younger, feeling like I'm doubted, that you can't do this, you can't play on this team, you're too small, you're too little. Getting into high school, hey, I'm fresh off the golf course,
All right, Tiger Woods.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay, what is this golfer going to do and how is he going to help us? Feeling that, not that it upset me, but it's kind of that FU mentality, like I'll show you. And
I did a lot of things out of hate and bitterness.
Big
They
time.
were really ended up good for me.
Yep.
Where I was and that's what I needed to do. But like now I try and do stuff out of like love and respect, and I try and spin it that way. But that's a hell of a motivator.
Yep.
Right.
Big time. I mean, when somebody tells you it's with anything, it's with sport. It's
right.
with
call
academics.
me dumb, call me slow,
Right.
call me weak, call me these things, and
Okay.
I'll show you.
I'll show
Revenge is a hell of a drug.
Right, exactly. And then kind of on top of that too of, the saying of speaking softly but carry a big stick. And that was just, I really felt like I took on that persona, and I did a lot of growing up very early in my life. And
You had to do some adulting before you're
exactly
an adult.
before you're ready. But it's just you're dealt the cards you're dealt, and you just got to make the best of it. And so that's just kind of I wanted to continue to learn and get better, and I didn't have a problem going out of my way and asking for that help.
What was the reception like when so that guy takes you under his wing? Because my observation is that we get real scared about asking for help and
Right.
asking for guidance. And a lot of times, the people that you ask for that stuff are all too happy to go. Sometimes they blow you off.
More than willing
whatever
to help.
punk, get out. But most of
Yep.
the time, they're going, absolutely. Here's what I'm going to do for you.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're getting information sent to you didn't even ask for.
Nope.
And people are really, there's a thing that some folks really like to share.
Yep.
In their particular area, whatever it is.
Absolutely. So it was just an awesome opportunity that his name was Andrew, that he was willing to share his knowledge and help me out. And so July rolls around, I turn 19, because this was a full year now that I'm doing this, and I reach back out to my old head coach, and it was kind of funny that he knew I was taking that year off, and I went back to the school and helped coach a little bit, help some of the younger guys out, and really funny, the juniors who were on the team the year before, or some of the buddies, like you kind of have to stay away from them a little bit, just because you still
awkward.
have you can't really do that, but just helping out with the team and just doing my thing and staying in shape. Lifting wise,
you take a gray shirt year.
should have been exactly. I took in my mind, I took my own gray shirt. That's what I did. And reaching out to him, seeing if he could contact some schools. I reached out to my old head coach at Pine Creek, and he made some phone calls. And essentially what I did was I sent a letter to Colorado Mesa, Western, Fort Lewis, Adams. I didn't do anything with mines because I was like, I'm just not getting into that school. It's not going to happen. But all the D2s in Colorado. Reach out to them. Don't hear anything back. Just keep doing my thing. Wish I had done a little more cardio than I did lifting, but get that phone call.
Well, you're trying to get jacked and tan,
exactly.
Right? So you're working with Andrew.
You're 18,
and
19
Andrew's trying
years
to get
old.
jacked and tan.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So I'm trying to put on as much muscle I can. At the time I'm weighing 190, 195 at the time, had shedded some of that baby fat still, and I'm starting to look a little bit thicker, a little bit more lean. And finally I get that phone call 2 weeks before fall camp from Coach Sersha.
Okay.
Here. And hey, this is Coach Sersha. Coach Sersha. We don't have any money to give you. Would love it if you'd come walk on. We have camp at this day. And I'm on my way.
Powerful
I'll
Coach
be there in a
Sersha.
couple hours.
I don't know. I wonder if he knew what he was doing at the time.
I don't think he had
Possibly the best
any
offensive
idea
player. Yeah.
what he was doing at the time.
So, any other schools get back to you?
Not a one.
Not a one. Well, piss on them.
So,
Was it just like, was this kind of like a destiny kind of a thing for you, as far as like, oh, that's Adams State, I've been there and I
Right.
know what it's like, and it's like, was it just like stuff kind of unfolding for? What was that like for you?
I mean, it's so. I very much believe in things happen for a reason. I fully believe in that.
Amen.
And it just, the fact that this was the school that called me, a year and a half before that, I'm here with my high school buddies, finally getting to mix it back in on a football field, on a turf, strapping up the helmet and, all that. And I came out here for the spring game before the summer, and it was really funny because Connor Stevens at the time, I knew him. Chase was here. He was a freshman here. But coming into the locker room and being around, and Connor could tell you this too. He jokes about it with me whenever I see him. He's like, man, I'll never forget when you came into the locker room. And he's like, I said, "Hey, Connor, I'm Chad. Do you remember me from, because I mean, it's years at this time." And
pardon me, sir.
yeah, exactly. He could probably remember my super high voice, and it's like, wow, this guy looks totally different from what I remember him. But getting to be here for the spring game and just getting to see that atmosphere and then finally getting a call, weeks later, and it's like I'm on my way.
Yeah, the magic of Adams State kind of sucks you in.
It's nuts.
So, tell me about redshirt year. Who are some of the cats you're in the dorms with? What are your fast friends? What's that? What's that first camp like?
So the year after, when we
and Coach Heaton's head coach at the time.
Yep, Marty's still here. His whole staff is here. So one of my buddies who I ended up rooming with most of the time that I was here, Morris Gilbert, we graduated together at Mesa Ridge High School. So he came here right after graduating. Cameron Vandy Castile came here right after graduating. So they roomed together in the dorms their first year, that year that I took off. I get here. They're living in the off-campus apartments now. Well, our running back, my senior year at high school, he was a junior, Tremel Stanley. He decides to come here. So familiar faces all over the place, super comfortable,
super easy. Was there some guys that you had played against in high school that also came here?
There was a couple guys from Denver South who ended up coming here. I think they stuck around for a year and then left. But kids around the area, but I don't think I played against them. Like my senior year, there's a few kids from Rampart. That's another spring school, Canyon City. A couple of those kids came here.
Marty Heaton roster, right? So you got Colorado kids, some Arizona kids, a couple of JUCO Cali kids, probably.
A few New Mexico kids.
Kids.
So definitely the region, and those guys reaching out a little bit, getting out to California, but was very comfortable with familiar faces. And when I got here, I was so happy to be in school, and I was so happy that I got the opportunity to keep playing football, that it was more euphoric for me than anything.
Well, and so my experience is like being in the dorms, I'm like, this is my space. It's safe.
Right.
There's a cafeteria I get to go to.
Yep.
This place is awesome.
Right.
Right. So you get transferred from, no shade to your parents, but you get transferred from a chaos household into this space where it's like, oh man, I got friends. This is terrific.
Yep. Just totally where I needed to be.
So so that year, your redshirt year, is that Marty's last year?
That was Marty's last final season.
And was he vocal about that? Was he like, this is my last year, guys? Like, what was that like?
I don't remember him being too vocal about any of that. I think as the season kind of winded down, you could see the writing on the wall that this was probably it for him. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know if it was, somebody telling him like, hey, this is your last year, or if he just kind of was like, I think my time here at Adams is just winding down and this is probably it for me. I couldn't tell you what that dynamic was like, but towards the end of the season, the writing was on the wall, essentially.
Who were some of the seniors then? You remember
anybody? Coming in, I didn't, again, playing linebacker and wide receiver in high school. When I got here, I didn't know if I was going to be a receiver. I thought I was too small to be a college linebacker, so it's like,
not in Marty Heaton's scheme.
No.
The 6 foot, 210 pound-ish body type has done a lot for Adams State. A little insider baseball here, talking to Levi Gallus, who's now the D coordinator at West Texas A&M. He's the guy who came in with me. When he was going into coaching, he had conversations with Coach Heaton, and Coach Heaton's deal was, and he'll correct me one day when I get him on the podcast, but my understanding was you put a mofo at nose guard, you put a mofo at middle linebacker, you put a mofo at free safety, and that's where you spend your Scotty dollars, and then you're going to fill around them.
Build around it.
Yeah, we used to call it the Adams State School of Linebackers, a bunch of 6 foot, 210-pound walk-ons coming in with chips on their shoulder. Shout out Gunnar Bundesman. And those types of guys that had a will, they're going to buy into 959 to do right and all the things that that Marty Heaton preached. And so that body time, I'm almost shocked that you didn't get pulled into the black shirt fraternity right off the jump.
So I didn't know if it was going to be receiver. I didn't know if I was going to be at free or strong. And that year I got in here, there was 5 senior receivers.
Okay.
And so that just kind of they heavily recruited receivers from Arizona that year.
Okay.
But it just I don't know who made that decision, but it's like, hey, you've got a good set of hands. We're gonna put you at receiver. You're going to redshirt this year because we have so many upperclassmen.
What was it like scout teaming against a Marty Eaton defense?
Well, Carriel Brooks was a senior.
Yeah,
Carriel was a senior. So
powerful Carriel Brooks, multi-year CFL veteran, did a stint with the Cardinals. Very good player, potential Hall of Famer in the future.
Right.
So you're on a dog.
Well, it's awesome because I'm taking this redshirt year as okay. There's all these other receivers who are being paid to be here. I'm not getting anything, so that kind of goes back to that chip on your shoulder. It's like, all right, you guys are getting paid. We'll find out.
Time to get a place at the table.
Right, like because I'm gonna make my place immediately, and I felt like I successfully did so. But just getting the opportunity to be on scout and just run against that starting defense was some of the most fun that I had. You're just free. You're just running. You have nothing to worry about. There's zero pressure. Right.
You can goof with a spin move every once.
Exactly.
You can do some stuff that might be that get you chewed out.
Yep.
But it's a tremendous experience.
It was unbelievable. And I tell kids now, it's, well, I don't want to use my red shirt. I'm ready to play. It's like, redshirting is a great thing. At the time you think right out of high school, it's I'm going to play college football. Right. I'm the man.
Now.
Exactly. You need this right now. And you're young. You've got time to develop. Stay in school as long as you can. And if that means taking a red shirt to develop, yes, do it. Do it. And then, and with my timetable too, it's like I took my own gray shirt. So by the time my red shirt year rolled around, I was 2 years out of football before I'd even seen live action, game action. And
you hadn't hit a different color helmet in a minute.
A long time.
It had been a while.
A long time.
Junior Scout Team Player of the Year?
I should have, but I didn't because the week before week one, we had not Scout Bowl, but the scout goes up against the starting defense, and you go through stretch lines with the starters, and you just the whole protocol of getting ready for the season. And I'll never forget this either. And when I see this guy, and we joke about it all the time. So James Regan was a redshirt sophomore at the time, and it was a busted play, and I was in the slot, and I ran a little flat arrow and totally busted on the defense. I stood there, quarterback, boots out, sees me wide open the flat, throws it to me. I go to throw a stiff arm on Regan, and he dives right into my ankles. So I get a high ankle sprain. So that sets me back a month and a half. So towards the middle to latter part of the year is when I finally got back into the scout stuff. So it's just like, you're not earning this.
I thought you were going to tell me a story about how you had a lapse in judgment and cut block Carriel Brooks or something like that. And then, stay on your feet. Dang it.
No, but the thing with Carriel, though, is because I got back into it towards the latter part of the year, he's put himself on the map. It sounded like he had a really good junior year. Not that he didn't have a good senior year, but he did what he needed to do his junior year to get recognized. And so you're a 19-year-old kid, and you've got NFL scouts that are standing on the sideline in Alamosa, Colorado, and it's like, well, I know they're not looking at me, but I'm going to give this dude the best look that I can. And we developed a fun little relationship of battling back and forth. Yeah, exactly. So, and he taught me a lot his senior year leading into just, the start of my career at Adams.
Yeah, well, powerful experience right there, I'm
Big
sure. For me to be able to sit and talk with Andy Hawkins after Scout Bowls and stuff like that. We never got into great conversations around techniques and stuff like that. Chris Lundin was a little bit different for me. Him and I would work on different moves like, hey, okay, try to chop and run the hoop, and he gave me that fake punch, and
Right.
I'm whiffing and stuff. So
Right.
we'd work on a couple of stuff, but those older guys they're so instrumental, especially when Marty Heaton's defenses weren't a joke. Cariel Brooks wasn't a joke.
Nope.
And I'm sure that redshirt experience helped to jettison you into the success you ultimately had. So
Right.
tell me about the coaching transition. Did that get you a little nervous? Did you get scallied up and get to have like an exit interview with Heaton? Like, what was that like?
No, I never had an exit interview with Heaton, and then I'm back home in Colorado Springs, and I don't remember if it was probably Christmas break when they hired and brought in Tim Rosenbaugh. You get that news, and you're naturally curious, like, okay, what did this guy do? And you see his career in college, and you see what he does at the pro level, and it's like, all right, this is going to be awesome.
Did you have any freak out period with that? Or is there any part of you that's like, oh man, I've done all this stuff. I'm listening to Andrew, I'm doing all these things, and now Dad's gone. Like,
Right.
the daddy of the program, you get this adversity. Were you freaking out at all? Like, what was it like for you?
Not really, because it's not like I was one of his guys.
You knew, okay.
I wasn't. I didn't belong to anybody. It was, you have to carve your own path, and whether that means you're going to do it with one coach or the other, you don't have a choice.
So yeah, not a new situation.
No.
All right,
Right.
Get to the table.
Yep. Get back to the table, make your place, and I felt like with Marty's staff, I proved myself early in camp and kind of throughout the year. Like, hey, this guy's. He's a player. He's going to make some plays. Is it now? Maybe not. Is it in the future? Absolutely. But you get a new staff coming in, and everything changes, and it's like, well, you've already done this once. Do it again. Why can't you do it again?
Yeah.
And
so tell me about the change. What's it like?
so it's funny because with my background at home, I didn't have a great sense of direction, and I didn't really have like the best role model. So I was always questioning myself. Am I doing the right thing?
Right.
What do I need to be doing better? And
Questioning yourself by yourself because you don't have
exactly,
anybody to run it through.
because
Like,
there's
hey,
nobody for me to talk to. There's nobody I can spitball ideas off of. I've got my buddies who are all in the same boat as me, trying to set their place at the table. And it was funny because when Rosie and his staff got here, I mean, I was known as affirmation boy that first camp, because it's like, all right, well, what am I doing wrong? What can I do? How can I do this? And finally, when they kind of let me have it, and now looking back at it, it's just you're a 19-year-old kid with not a great sense of direction. You don't have, like I said, a lot of people to talk to. So again, it's that maturation process and growing up quick, and it's like, all right, well, this isn't working. You need to figure out what you can do to make it work. And at the end of the day, for me, that was, well, you need to keep your mouth shut and you need to make plays. That's what you need to do. And that's what I started doing.
So was it a damn it, Chad moment? Like, damn it, Chad, you got what it takes. Figure it out. Keep your mouth shut, make plays.
Just put your head down.
Okay.
Carry that big stick and speak softly.
So how does that transition into Coach Rosenbaugh? He's got an offensive mindset.
Yep.
What are those first couple seasons like for you?
It's staying up super late, learning the playbook so that you know every single position, whether you're slot, XYZ, H, whatever it is. I got in my playbook, and it's like, if you want to play and you want to put yourself in a situation to play, you better know anything and everything you can. And so I took it upon myself, and the coaches definitely preach this too. Like, you want to be more expendable to us, you need to know everything that you can, learn every position. So I did. And it was learn every position. And when the ball comes your way, you better make a play. And so that's what I did. Get the opportunity. I earned myself a starting position as a redshirt freshman, and had a pretty decent first year, and then kind of making that transition into my sophomore year and starting to make more plays and continue to building my confidence of, all right, You've done a good job. How can we take this to the next level? And just really immersing myself in the weight room, continuing to just know my playbook like the back of my hand, and just when the ball's in the air, make a play. Make a play.
What does the off season and that type of stuff look like for you? Gersik's in charge then, or were you getting some Kern Daddy? I think you would have just had Gersik.
It was just Gersik the first couple of years. It was Gersik, and that's another thing too. Is he's a very soft spoken at the time. Just very intimidating kind of figure, and it's like. It's like, dude, why are you such a dick? That's not at all.
Yeah,
that's not at all.
And
what
he's
it is.
not right.
He's not at all.
He's he's a proper animal, 100%
through and through.
He was a running back.
Yep.
When I came in and he got hurt, and then he just switched to just being a thrower. But I was just like, what am I doing here?
It's funny too because it was between I'm pretty sure my freshman and sophomore year. I wanted to get to that next level, and it's like. How can I do that? I need to get bigger. I need to get stronger. What do I need to be eating? And so one of his GAs at the time, I can't remember his last name. He did a lot of work over at the high school at Alamosa High School in the weight room. But
was it a bigger guy? Was it Ibarra?
No, that doesn't sound familiar. Okay. That doesn't sound familiar. But he kind of took me under his wing, and he was close with Gersik. And then it got to the point where it's like, I need to just eat more food. Like, what should I be eating? And, Gersik at the time had this big, thick packet of just a nutrition plan. And this coach goes to Gersik, and he's just like, he needs it.
Give it to him. And
Gersik is just kind of looking at me. It's kind of a stare down for like 10 seconds. I'm just like, what? Like... I want to get better. Like I'm here to work, and I'm not going anywhere. And it's just, I don't say anything. And then, he pulls it out and he gives it to me, and it's just like I go through it, and everything in there, I eat as much as I can, and
smashing chicken breast and oatmeal,
eggs,
and
everything. But you start putting on weight and continue to develop physically, and. It kept going from there for me.
What else did you do to take care of yourself, right? Because that's like, if you do everything that you're told as far as you comply and practice and you're engaged and your playbook and the scheme, and then you do the reps that you're assigned to do in the weight room, it's kind of that next layer of sophistication when you start getting into making sure that you're hitting a macro count, or at least that you're attempting to eat more and more.
Right.
Because it's really easy for people to think that they're being busy. I was one of those guys where, oh yeah, I eat a lot, but that was because I'd eat a pizza and a bag of breadsticks by myself every once in a while. So I thought I was like this bottomless pit, but I wasn't tracking stuff. Like I wasn't being as serious as I could have been. I was doing the best I could. What were the other things that you were doing? So you dive into the nutrition. Were you maintaining yourself when you did get an injury? Like, what were some of those other things you did to help you to become successful? Those other controllable variables that you took initiative with to help with your performance come the fall?
So the biggest thing that I did, and I still do to this day, even though I'm not competing in anything or at the level that I was, and it's awesome because Brady Connor preaches this all the time. Still to this day, and even more when I was here, I would get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. It did not matter what was going on. Obviously on the weekends you lose a little bit of those hours every once in a while on occasion, but whether it was my studies or anything with football, you're not going to perform at the level you want if you do not get a minimum of 8 hours of sleep. So for me, for the most part, it was, I'm in bed 10 o'clock every night. I mean, I'm laying down, heads on the pillow, lights out shortly after 10 p.m.
Powerful recovery. Free legal steroids, as my buddy Will Trujillo describes it.
Here's what I found.
Oh, hey, Siri.
Oh, hey, Siri.
So getting sleep, anything else? Like, are you a naturally flexible type of cat? Like, what is that like for you as far as like mobility and things?
So I didn't stretch every night, but I'd stretch probably 2-3 nights a week.
It's a lot.
Yep.
It's a lot, And then that was weird. Did you ever get any negative feedback from other people? They come in, you're stretching and stuff like that. I remember being, doing abs on my bedroom floor and someone coming in like, what are you doing, you weirdo? And I'm like, wow, this is what I got to do,
Yep.
you know? And that was just that little bit extra that I could do something about.
Right.
So, but every once in a while, you know, you get a little negative feedback from a teammate. What are you doing? Come out. No,
You get a hard time, but the flexibility was a big thing, and especially at a skill position like receiver, you know, you have to be flexible, you have to be loose. But sleep was a big thing, stretching, and I wasn't necessarily the guy where it's like, I got to get extra work. I got to be in the weight room longer. I got to do this. I would just take advantage of every opportunity that I got on the field before practice and a little bit after practice of just getting more catches in.
Do everything you're supposed to do and then do it well.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, and I think that's where, what else do I need to do? What else do
Right.
I need to do? Well, you probably don't need to do anything else. In
You
fact,
need
you
to
might even be
recover
able,
and sleep.
you might even need to cut out some of it.
Yeah.
And so you can focus on the quality of your sleep, the quality of your nutrition, the quality of your movement, the quality of your lifts, the quality of your practice, the quality of your classwork, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of your memorable games, right? Because, you know, you got Rosenbach coming in. Rosenbach ends up, you know, he's a non-Adams State alumni, so he gets to, you know, add his experiences playing in the NFL to Adams State. Did you guys still have this fierce rivalry with the old Western weenies there and playing for the musket and those types of things? What were those like?
So it got better as the years went along. My true freshman year when I redshirted with Heaton around, I mean, the Western rivalry was just, I mean, that's, nothing else mattered.
Nothing.
I mean, and it goes with Western too. And I've talked with a couple of guys who played over there. It's like, you could lose every single game of the season. Not that you want to by any means, but if you have one win on your schedule or one win for the year, it better be Western.
Absolutely.
It better be Western. So that's what it was with Heaton. Rosie comes in, and it's not so much Western. It's more, we got to beat the big dogs. We got to beat Pueblo. We got to beat Mines. We got to beat Mesa. Western's lower in the conference, so we're not even worried about them. So not that it took away from the rivalry because it was a big deal.
He's just got a different attitude.
Exactly.
He's got the
It's just-
ambitions.
it's-
Hey, now the bullseye's on Pueblo.
Yep, the bullseye's on the big dogs.
Because I have a love-hate relationship with Western. I have a hate-hate relationship with Pueblo.
Yep.
Do not like them. It's just a different vibe,
Yep.
right? Like I would join forces with Western if we had to in order to beat Pueblo.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's like, you know, just the quintessential arch nemesis type of a thing.
Right.
But I don't wish them any harm.
Right.
You know, but so you guys put the bullseye on the elite programs in there. Still some vicious games though between Western and seeing the musket get shot.
Oh yeah,
and stuff
they're
like that.
physical between Western and Fort Lewis. But just to get back to your question, there's a couple of memorable games that come to mind. I mean, Texas A&M Commerce, my first week one redshirt freshman year. I mean, we go down there. They're a ranked opponent.
Huge stadium,
huge crowd. You know, they've got the fraternities and the sororities out there, and obviously different from Alamosa, Colorado.
a little bit different vibe there.
Just a very cool vibe. I mean, and we got ran over. They were huge. They were fast, but I mean, we get the ball to start the game. First play of the game, it comes to me. You know, it's like I take the field and I'm shaking.
Yeah.
You know, you're terrified.
Right.
Not
81. You know,
yeah,
people,
exactly.
You,
You get people yelling. So you get the play call, and it's like, I'm getting the ball first play of the game, first action in a couple of years. But it's so funny too.
This is what you want in Hovasse, place at the table.
Exactly. Here's your place at the table. You better make it work. But it's so funny too, because I could remember the second I caught the ball, it's like my legs stopped working. You know, it's just
like you're having those dreams when you're fighting and you're punching and it doesn't do anything, or you're running and you can't go anywhere.
It's just a quick little slip screen. I catch the ball and I ran directly into my blocker's back. You know, got 3-4 yards and ended up getting tackled. But I catch a touchdown pass, you know, later in that game. So super cool memories, super fun road trip. But the game that stands out to me the most is Western. My senior year, we're at Western. We ran them over the year before, and they They had a much better
Would that
team
have
this
been
year.
an Austin Eckler Western?
That was sophomore year, was his senior year.
Yeah.
Yep. So that game was actually the comeback game. That was the
triple overtime.
We're losing 49-10 at halftime, and we come back and win that game. That was Rosie's first year, third game maybe. I mean that's another
Did I have that right? Triple overtime.
I don't.
Overtime though.
It was overtime, double maybe. I don't know if it went to triple.
I guess I thought it might have been because if I recall, I think they give Eckler the rock and he gets stuffed. Or is it? Or is this
at the end of the game?
Yeah,
they run a screen to him that is wide open to win the game, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was my buddy JT Land. He's just sent on a blitz, gets to the quarterback, rushes the quarterback ends up dumping into the dirt, and we win the game. So, and it's NCAA largest comeback in history. So that was, again, that's another memorable one too. And it seemed a lot of them happened to be Western, which you wouldn't want it any
That's
other way.
fascinating. You remember that halftime talking to when you're down 49-10 to the arch nemesis? Is it like all right, boys, let's go, or is it what is it like?
Oh, we threw a Hail Mary that I caught for a touchdown right before half. And so, I mean, you cut it
momentum.
Sure, momentum. You're down by 100 points still. I just happened to catch a touchdown right at the half. But we go in the locker room, and it's you're still kind of just shell shocked because they scored a touchdown on every single possession, and it's kind of like, what the hell's going on? Mixed
very
with
demoralizing,
right? And then we come out, and it's not that anything was said to get the boys going or anything like that. It was just kind of just one play at a time.
Came out, roasted some weenies.
One play at a time, roasting some weenies. There you go. But get the trophy back.
Yep.
Lost it my sophomore year. Junior year, we roll through them. And then my senior year, so we're at Western.
Yeah.
We're owning the game. Fourth quarter rolls around, and for some reason, we just stop playing. We go down 8. We have last possession at the end of the game. We score. We get the 2 points. Goes to overtime. They kick a field goal first possession. We get the ball back. We get down. I think we converted a fourth down in overtime. We get down to probably the 5-yard line, call a timeout. For some reason, I had been singled up the whole game. And we go into the huddle at the timeout, and Blank was the head coach at the time. He's drawing up a play, and it's funny because our quarterback, not that he didn't want to run the plays that Blank called, but I was definitely his safety blanket. And we go into the huddle, and he's calling a play, and it's just like, if I'm singled up, just throw me the ball. Just throw it up. And sure enough, we get out there, we line up, I'm singled up by myself, and I just look over, and, Nick Rooney's our quarterback at the time. He gives me the signal. And it's like, all right, this is ball game. Take the snap, go into my defender, start breaking it off to the corner of the end zone, jump ball in the back of the end zone, game over.
Game over.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Chad to the left.
I was left side on that one.
Chad to the left.
Yep, and it was on their sideline too. It was so funny watching the film because they had a pretty decent crowd in that corner of the end zone. And you just see some of these guys just slamming their hats on the ground, banging up against the wall. So it was righteous.
Yeah.
Poetic justice.
Tell me a little bit more about your quarterback relationships. How many quarterbacks did you end up having?
A million.
Okay, so you got a million different. Any
God.
of them? Because it sounds like you developed this relationship with Rooney to where you're
my senior year
go to. Tell me about that quarterback.
So let me roll through these real quick just because it's incredible.
Yeah.
Freshman year, Austin Hillman, he got moved to receiver.
Okay.
Had a freshman come in my redshirt freshman year, Johnny Photo, played with him for a little bit. Stetson Stallworth bounced around at quarterback. And then you get into junior, senior year. So my high school quarterback was my roommate. He got to play for a little bit. I don't think he got to see any game time action, but during camp. So Cody Groff, and then you got George Hernandez, and finally Nick Rooney. So, I mean, about 7, 8 guys who I ended up seeing passes from. But, yeah, I mean, Rooney, He's a character, man. He is, with all due respect, and he's a nut job.
He's a wild boy.
Psychopath.
Good.
But
Good.
what I loved and respected about him was his compete level.
Yeah.
Because I mean, still to this day, I know there's competitive guys out there. I'm a psychopath in and of itself that losing is just not in my DNA. It's not in my blood, and I will go out of my way to do what I need to do to make sure that I'm
win
fulfilling.
or die.
Exactly. Win or die.
Well, and there's and then there's a difference, right? So this is something I spent a lot of time in Apache Junction trying to figure out how to not to lose.
Yep.
And I really had and I played a very shy career. I played every play not to screw up, and I did what I was told. I was reliable, and I don't have any qualms. I was doing the best I could. But I think there's a difference between playing not to lose and playing to win.
Yep.
Playing to execute versus playing not to screw up.
Yep.
And I think that attitude, because I saw that attitude out of the Rocco DiLorenzos, out of the Oscar Villas, where these guys were killers, right? And it sounds like you're in that same camp as far as, no, we're gonna take this down, right? And you need a handful of AJ Webbs as far as people that are willing and dedicated to be scheme sound and stuff like that. But I think that's just the next level when it comes to competitiveness and executing and winning versus not losing.
Right. And just how interesting Rooney was just as a person outside of football, and I really respected and loved his compete level. There's times where we'd go back and forth, and Hove, I need you here, here, and here. You got to do this, and it's like, Rooney, throw the ball. I'll be where I need to be, and I'll make a play.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. I got you, bud. Just throw the ball.
And so he ends up being the one dishing you the rock for you to ultimately set single game records, career records, and single season records. So what's that like for you transitioning, from underdog scout teamer, self-assigned gray shirt into the dude?
Yeah.
Right? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so kind of my upper class years here, my sophomore year, towards the end of my sophomore year, it's like, you're pretty good. Like, you can, let's see what we can do. Let's take this up another notch. And just really honing in on continuing to develop and just practicing and being in the weight room and doing what I need to do. And it just continued to snowball from there.
Well, you didn't rest on your laurels, right? Because that could have been, you took the right, right? You did the right thing. You ratcheted up a notch. You stuck to the things that you knew that would make you successful versus, I'm Chad.
Right.
I'm the Chad. I can just do these things. I don't have to work. I'm just gonna, it's booby miles type, of stuff.
Yep. No, I think in my mind, I just turned a switch to just never be, not pleased, but just, what more can you do? You can take this to another level. How are you going to do it? Because nobody believes you're going to do it. Everybody's going to doubt you. But not being satisfied with my past accomplishments and where I was at, but let's keep this train rolling and let's take it up another notch.
Wow. What's that like for you to, get that phone call or that letter, or whoever it is that delivers that message that, we're considering you for the Harlan Hill as a junior? What's that information like?
So that came across my feed on Instagram and Twitter when it was posted, and then I shortly got a text from Rosie my junior year right after, and it's like, you're a Harlan Hill candidate, and it's like,
wow.
What's the Harlan Hill? And then, because they just hadn't heard of it at that point. You're just kind of naive to that and ignorant to it, I guess. But
then it's like, that's not affiliate, that's the Division II Heisman. We're talking about, what Danny Woodhead won twice.
Right. Back to back. Yep. So you get nominated for the Harlan, and it's obviously different with how it works in Division II. And there's a couple guys that are nominated in the region, and it's almost kind of like a bracket in a sense where it's voted on. And then you get to your last couple finalists after you have that initial bigger group where it's probably 15 guys in the nation at all different positions. And then those 15 guys get voted on, and it's, if I'm remembering and understanding correctly, it's the top guy from each region. So that junior year, 4 or 5 of us in the region, and I'm probably third or fourth in voting. And then my senior year, it comes around and second or third in voting in the region. So never got to be a finalist, but just the honor of being nominated and being seen and respected as one of the top Division II athletes in the country was awesome.
Well, it's a powerful accomplishment between the Harlan Hill nominations, putting you in the conversations with a Danny Woodhead, who I got the opportunity to play against and watch, and it's just like, these are just different people.
They're just different breeds. Yep.
They're different beasts. They're built different, but also you're back-to-back RMAC Offensive Player of the Year. Has not happened since Adam McGurk, and I don't know. Does the name Adam McGurk mean anything to you?
It doesn't. It doesn't. I'm not familiar with the name, but I got to put a little asterisk next to it. So my junior year, I was academic.
Oh, okay.
Academic. So I was first team all conference, but I didn't win Offensive Player of the Year. That came my senior year. So it's good to be on the academic and
absolutely. Well. Still, I don't know that Adam might have been on the academic part of it, but but when it comes to talking about Adams State and Adams State football, Adam McGurk was an absolute wild man. My redshirt freshman year was his senior year. Adam McGurk could hit you from 6 inches away, and it felt like he had a 10-yard running start.
Knock your breath
just a incredible hip mechanic, and it was fascinating for me to watch him, because he never just tackled anybody. It was always this 150-mile-an-hour slingshot of a whip right on the football.
There's a purpose behind it.
He still holds the record, I believe, for forced fumbles. A gentleman who is on the all-century RMAC team.
Nice.
Hopefully he gets some shot at the Hall of Fame conversation. But anyway, just again, from the Adams State lore and legend, congratulations on your accomplishments.
Appreciate it.
Not only for snatching up those different records, being recognized in the regions and across the country. Adam McGurk's a legend. You're a legend too.
I appreciate it.
And it's just such a fascinating thing to get to be a part of it in a different way, to stretch those, Adam McGurk's rolling in 2000, 2001, going all the way to 2018. So it's surreal for me to just kind of be a storyteller in this. And speaking of stories, let's start talking about the stories post-graduation, right? You get yourself into some pro days.
Yep.
What does it look like? You're getting this recognition. What does the end of your career look like from the prospects of going and playing professional?
Right. So that kind of was introduced to me at the end of my junior year. Just a couple teams had reached out and just were kind of looking for more information. It's cool because I tell kids this too, and I've got to work with some high school kids. It's like, I feel like a lot of the time kids are hung up on, I got to go D1, I got to go D1, I got to go D1. And that's sure if you think that's what's best for you, but it's like, you need to go somewhere where you're going to play, because it doesn't matter what level you're at, D1, D1 AA, D2, NAIA, D3, whatever. If you're good enough to go to the next level, there are so many people at the scout level, at the professional level, they will find you.
Yeah, you produce, they will find you.
You produce, they will find you. And so I started to understand that a little bit at the end of my junior year. And not that it was necessarily on my radar of, let's go play professional after this. It was just kind of more, just keep doing what you're doing and keep performing, and let's see where this goes.
And you'd seen it a bit. You had seen Cariel Brooks go and do his thing.
Right. So that foundation was kind of already laid for me. And there's a handful of teams that came out here to watch practice, and then the last couple of weeks, it's funny because I produced more and more and more every single year, and I was more and more banged up every single year. And so the last couple the last couple of weeks of my senior year, the second to last game at Mesa, I ended up tearing my trap in my left shoulder. And so
now you got some upper body and lower, because you had gone through a hip.
Yep,
too.
I had hip surgery. At the end of my junior year, I played on a torn labrum for half a season, my junior year. And I got that surgically repaired in December, and then was cleared the summer going into my senior year, and just so towards the end of the year start getting a little bit banged up, tear my trap. I thought I separated my left shoulder, and I'm in Grand Junction, catch the bus back to Alamosa, get here, go to sleep. Next morning I wake up, I drive to Colorado Springs, and just lucky enough to have a relationship with the doctor who had worked on my hip, and I get an MRI, and everything's clear. It's like, okay, well, what the hell is wrong with my arm? Because there is something wrong. And it's like, I think your trap's torn. It's like, all right, well, that sucks, because I had a couple teams out here that week, and then a couple teams that were planning on coming out the last week. And it's like, well, I'm just going to kind of have to grind this one out for the last go around. But so season ends, wrap up the career, bittersweet, obviously. And at that point, it's, my DMs were kind of blowing up with agents. With agents hit me up, and it's just, you have no idea how any of this works. I have no idea who to talk to about getting help from this. And thankfully having a good relationship with my head coach at the time, and he kind of steered me in the right direction.
Yeah, so Coach Blankenship,
with
who
Blank,
had gone through that type of thing.
He had been through that. He was on a couple teams. He went to some camps and had an idea on kind of how that works. And so he gave me some good advice. And so I was able to figure out how I was going to train for a pro day, get that all scheduled, and how that was going to look. I signed with an agent up in Denver. I trained up in Denver at Landau Performance. Lauren Landau he runs that facility. It's his company that he pretty much built from the ground up. They are 2 blocks down the street from the Denver Broncos facility.
Okay.
I had heard that that's where Christian McCaffrey went through. I had heard that that's where Austin Eckler went through. Okay. Obviously, you see what those guys are doing. Not that me training at that facility was going to translate into me being an NFL superstar or anything like that, but it's like, you are in the right direction now of working with people who have been doing it for a long time. They know what they're saying. And as long as you keep your head down and you go to work, you can put yourself in a really good situation. And I felt like I did that. So graduate in December, get back home, immediately get with this facility and an agent that's tied to this facility, and then you start pro day training. We had a huge class that trained there. I mean, you got guys I trained with cats from CU, Louisville, SC, just so schools all over the place, Division I, Division II, NAIA. It's a Shark Tank. It's dudes who you're there to, you make relationships and you bond, but it's like my training partner was this guy from CU, and I get that he's playing in the Pac-12 and he's at a much bigger school at a bigger level. Numbers wise, what I did my senior year was twice the amount of what he did in his career. I get it. The competition level's different. You're playing at a different level, but I'm here and I'm developing a really unique bond with a lot of these guys, make a lot of good friendships. But at the end of the day, you're trying to set that seat at the table.
Place at the table.
Exactly. I'm going to bite your head off as we're training here. And that's what we all did. And it was so fun because it was so competitive and everybody just got so much better. Unbelievable experience and opportunity just to be able to get to do that.
So what happens after that experience?
So go through my pro day. Quite frankly, I had a good pro day, and it just, that year was a down year for receivers in college football. Okay. So talking to my agent, talking to some of my coaches, and that was a big thing too, was I didn't want to be fed any BS. Being a Division II guy walk on, earning a scholarship, doing what I did throughout my career, chip on my shoulder, proving everybody wrong. I kept that same mentality going into it. But when I got to that next level, even though I maintained all of that and I didn't lose any of that, who I was working with, it's like, I don't want you to feed me any BS.
Right.
I think that I can do this, and I'm going to prove to you guys that I can do this, and I can hang with these guys, and I have something to bring for a team.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be fed any, you got this. It's like, just be honest with me. If I can't do this, I can accept that as a man, and you don't think that I'm ready for this level, I can accept that.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout my entire process, through those months training, you're doing an unbelievable job. You need to keep doing what you're doing, and as long as you continue to keep doing what you're doing, you have a very good opportunity of getting a phone call and getting invited to a camp and just seeing what happens from there.
Mm-hmm.
Have my pro day, feel like I did pretty good. Draft rolls around, and I know I'm not going to get drafted. I know that none of that's going to happen. I'm hoping to get a phone call towards the end of the draft, and how that works too is when the 5th, 6th, 7th round rolls around, most of those guys who are getting drafted already know that they're getting drafted, because those first couple rounds that roll through, like, that's the big time for teams of figuring out who's on their list, who's available at that time. And then by the time you get to those later rounds, it's those teams are picking the guys they know that they can cut, and potential guys that can make the roster and whatnot. But draft rolls around, I'm talking to my agent. There's about 6 or 7 teams that are interested and have thrown my name around, but the receiver class just wasn't what anybody thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those guys that are predicted to get drafted aren't getting drafted. So then those become the guys that get those phone calls first, because it's, well, you're a priority free agent and you weren't drafted. You're higher on the list. We're going to go with these guys. And so
when you initially say it's like, okay, this is what's going on in the receiver class, it sounds like that's kind of good news. But then as they fall,
so do you. Yep.
Okay.
And that it kind of starts that domino effect of, as everybody's falling, so are you. And so that definitely hurt my case. And I'm talking to my agent, and it's, this team's dropping out, this team's dropping out, and then it gets down to the Broncos, which is just unbelievable to think about. It's just, you grow up in Colorado. It's just kind of your childhood team. I had been in contact with multiple scouts from the Broncos, and I'm training at Landau Performance. At the time I was training, Lauren Landau was the head strength coach for the Denver Broncos. So it's like, holy cow, it's unfortunate that all these other teams dropped out, but you may get to potentially suit up and try to make a practice squad, try to make a 53-man roster on your childhood team. Like, it's crazy to think about. And then it gets to the 12th hour, and I'm on the phone with my agent. He's on the phone with the Broncos scouts, and they decided to go with another guy. And that's a bummer, because you put in all this work, you put in all this time, and you can do it, but that opportunity just isn't there. So agents like, we can go to the CFL, we can do this. I'm stubborn. I'm very stubborn. I was getting ready to get married that summer. I wanted to be with my wife, and I wanted to start my life. And I was pissed about kind of how that all had transpired. And it's just like, you know what? I don't want to. I don't want to go to Canada. I don't want to go through that change. I'm happy with what I did in school. I'm happy with what I did at Adams. I'm going to stay in shape for a couple more months. If some people get hurt in camp, I'm going to be ready. And that phone call never came. And so that was just kind of bittersweet, kind of the end of it. But I don't regret anything. I have no regrets.
You did it your way.
I did it my way. I didn't finish the way I would have liked to. And, kind of seeing how with the Broncos in particular, just because it gets so close to that point, and they're your childhood team, and that's the team you root for, and just seeing how bad they were that year, especially on special teams, and it's like there's no heart, nobody's making plays, nobody cares. It's like, why am I not?
Yeah.
Why did I not get the opportunity to run a couple routes and run down on a kickoff team, cover a punt, and just work my bag off to just get that opportunity? And you know, it's there. But that's the thing, is there's thousands of guys saying that. There's thousands of guys saying that. So,
well, and you don't end up having any qualms that if I would have done this, there's nothing. You put it all out on the table.
Yep.
And you aimed, and doesn't end up working out the way you want, but at the same time, you have the wherewithal to be a man about it, and be decisive. Like, adulting time.
Right. I'm ready to start my life. I'm ready to start my life. And then that's the thing that it goes back to. It's like, man, because I talked about that a lot too, because when I was talking to one of the Denver scouts, they told me because I'm a local kid, I'll have an opportunity to go to their local pro day at the Broncos facility for all Colorado high school athletes who are in that draft class who have put themselves in a position to have a pro day. And, you know, the NFL has these rules and regulations that every NFL team can invite players from it's 2 or 3 schools. So for Denver, that's going to be CU, it's going to be CSU, and it's going to be Wyoming because they're in the region. So they can invite guys who are draft eligible to come out. And then it's local high school kids who are draft eligible too. And I get this phone call from my agent, and he's breaking the news to me. He's like, you're just outside of the radius that the Broncos are able to invite you. And it's just kind of like, can we not, like, I have family and relatives that live 10 minutes from the facility. Like, is there not a loophole that we can find to just get my foot in the door?
Right.
You know, it turns into that, and it turns into all these what ifs, and could we do this? Could we find this loophole? And, you know, I early on went back and forth with myself of, you know, if I had just gotten a phone call of, let me run a couple routes. Like being at Landau, it's like I'm one of his guys. He's the strength coach. He can't make a phone call and say, hey, this is one of my guys. This is what he's done. Let me walk through the front doors. And if you don't like how I look, then
just give me
escort me
chance.
out. Yeah, but that's the thing though too that just can unravel is just give me a chance. You know, I could have been able to run routes. Oh, I could have been able to get invited to a camp. Oh, I could have been able to make a practice squad. Oh, I could have been able to make a 53-man roster. You at some point, and it happened relatively. It took a little bit of time, but at some point, you have to accept the fact that this isn't happening the way you envisioned or planned for it, and you've got to accept it.
Because as magical as a game like football is, it's also cold, right? Just like Mother Nature, right? The Mother Nature doesn't care how much you've been hiking. She'll eat you up and spit you up out on the mountain, and you know, football is cold as the dope game, as they say.
So I have a pretty funny story, and it goes with the ties of how cold it is, and really how much of a business the NFL is, and. So when I was training, I got invited to a showcase out in Fort Worth, Texas. So there's the big Reese's Bowl game. You've got the NFLPA game. You've got the East-West Shrine game. Those are the 3 bigs where most of the big players get invited to. And then there's this showcase that's come around. It was a couple years in when I got to it. It's just called the College Gridiron Showcase. It's pretty much the last showcase for big school kids. Like, I mean, there was UCF, couple Alabama kids, a lot of SEC schools, Mountain West. I mean, everywhere. Not the big name guys that go to those big bowl games, but kind of those tweener. I mean, everybody there was, not everybody, but it's all going to be priority free agents, and you're going to have a couple of late round draft picks there. That's the group that I'm talking about. But there's probably we all fly out to Fort Worth, and you're staying. I think the hotel's the Omnia. It's right in downtown. Super gorgeous hotel. Right across the street is these big, huge conference centers. There's probably 125 to 150 athletes there who are all draft eligible. And it's a 2-3 day weekend where you're running through drills, you're competing. All 32 NFL teams are there with probably 5 to 8 scouts.
Wow.
And half of the CFL teams were there with a couple of scouts as well.
It's a serious event.
Awesome event. It's like, wow, this is the exposure that you want. They go through a bunch of different trainings throughout the week that you're there. It's very awesome how it runs. You have trainings and classes on how taxes work, how you earn a contract. You know, and it's funny too, breaking all that stuff down. When you do make a team and you are getting paid, you're making a little bit different money if you're playing in Green Bay, Wisconsin, compared to playing in Los Angeles.
Right.
Your contract looks very different, even though you're signing that same thing. Like the amount of money you're getting is different just because of how all the taxes and stuff work. So a lot of really, really cool breakdowns on different stuff. But it's so funny because this one morning they woke us up at about 6 a.m. and we all walk over to the conference rooms, and every NFL team has their own table. They're all sitting there. There's a big stage up in front of all the NFL teams. They bring us in like 15 guys deep at a time. Everybody's waiting out in the hallway, and then you kind of come into this back room and you strip down to everything but your draws. They call you out one at a time. You go and you step up on a stage in front of hundreds of people, it seems like. I mean, every team. And you step on a scale. So that's how it works. They call you out. So like Hovasse, Chadwick, Adam State, receiver. You walk out onto the stage. You step on a scale. They yell out your weight. You take a step off the scale. You back up. They take your height. They yell out your height. And then you walk down the stage and you start walking around all the tables. And all the scouts are doing is they have all their paperwork out. All their documents on, I'm assuming, every single player there, and they are just looking at you head to toe, looking at your body type, taking
sounds like
notes.
Something goes on in another country. This is a fascinating deal.
I was like, you know what? I was super nervous at first when it's happening, and it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna enjoy this moment. You know, the director of the whole thing, kind of the night before, is like, you know, I just want you boys to know, like, there's nothing I would ask you guys to do that I wouldn't do. I'm just kind of like, where is he going with this? You know, where is he going with this? Sure enough, next morning, that's what happens. And
the meat market.
It's exactly the meat market. And it is so funny. I'm joking around with a couple of the boys. It's early in the morning. It's, you know, it's chilly. They got the AC pumping, and I'm talking with the guys. I'm like, man, we should pop like a Cialis or something before we get going with this.
Yeah, I should have got a heads up to fluff it, guys.
Oh my goodness. So, but it was just, yep. And so you walk through and you get through all of it, and you get back to the room and you put your clothes on and you're waiting for kind of the next instructions.
That is fascinating.
So
I did not expect that story to come out.
Yeah.
Um,
A little higher than PG. So
yeah, not really. Well, I mean, I think these are, you know, good things to know, right? So the NFL is a business, right? And we idealize it as this thing as football players. And I'm hoping that this story makes it around to some folks that might have those aspirations as far as what to expect, and also just some more recognition on how cold of a game. How cold of a game it can be, right?
Well, I mean, even on top of that, there's a couple guys that I was training with who went to the combine. And, you know, and after the combine's over, I mean, that's essentially the last that's essentially the last big pro day. A couple guys will go back to their schools, and there's a few more pro days that you have, but we're training for a couple more weeks before the draft rolls around. And a couple of those guys that come back, I mean, the combine for the most part is miserable for those guys. I mean, they're waking them up at 2:30, 3 in the morning to see if their piss is hot.
Wow.
You know, testing them to see what they're taking. And it's just you are in interviews for 15 hours and it's nonstop, team after team after team coming in and asking you stuff. And it's just, it is a massive, massive organization and business.
I'd be very interested to have you like figure out if we could arrange something so you could talk to those players that have those aspirations to, see how for you to tell them how the sausage gets made based off of your observations, your experience. Earlier, we had discussions, about how the sausage gets made based off of your experience post-career, starting to do some more adulting, working with a doctor that had cut on you. I would like to know now, what has it meant to you to play here at Adams State, to be a part of Adams State, and any of the gifts of the game that you've took with you that you're now implementing or carrying with you, whether they're lessons, whether they're experiences? What are the gifts of the game for you, Chad?
Yeah, this is my alma mater. This is where I can come back whenever and kind of hang my coat on and just have conversations with not just football players, but any athletes and any students that kind of come through, and just don't take for granted the time and the opportunities that are presented to you. You absolutely want to make the most of every opportunity that you're given, and you don't want to have any regrets later in life. You don't want to have any regrets. And I think that that's something that I've definitely learned over the last couple of years, kind of starting my life after school and after football and becoming the man that I want to be. And Adams definitely molded and shaped a lot of those lessons for me.
It's it's a magical place. I'm blessed to have been able to play here, be a part of it, but I'm also blessed and thankful that that you and I got to spend some time in the class and you started piquing my interest back in the program. And I'm thankful that you came down here to tell your great story, to share these experiences that you had and what Adams State's meant to you, what it's been like for you to put in the work, to earn your respect, to earn your place at the table. Your career and your records, those all speak for themselves. But on behalf of Adams State and all the Adams State football players that I guess I can speak for, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for sharing your time, your blood, your sweat, your tears out on Rex Field, grinding and all the things that you put in. And, we get our gray T-shirt that we get to walk away with when we graduate. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of memories. There's a lot of stories. And I look forward to continuing having conversations with you, whether they're parts, multiple parts of this type of a podcast, but also on those days where they give you the call and they let you know that we might be hanging 81 up on the field and retiring that number and getting you into the Hall of Fame. So, Chad Hovasse, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode of the Adams State Football Podcast. And before you stop, do me a solid. Go ahead, listen, subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode on your social medias. If you want to stay up to date with the Adams State Football Podcast and other things that are going on with the Adams State Football program, subscribe to the Adams State Football Facebook group. Thanks in advance. Go Adams State.